Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Washington, D.C. for the dedication of the Korean War Veterans Memorial Monument and Wall of Remembrance. We're glad to have you here today on this beautiful July morning. It's wonderful. My name is Colonel David J. Clark, U.S. Army retired.
And my name is Susan Key. I'm a Korean American writer honoring Korean War veterans and fallen heroes of the Korean War. It is our honor to be here with you today.
Yeah, my background is the executive director of the 60th anniversary of the Korean War. It was a Department of Defense commemoration back in 2010 to 2013. And we both have a very deep connection to this event, and we're so honored to be here today, and we're glad you could join us. Here we are situated on the National Mall in the shadow of the Lincoln Memorial, and it's an absolutely beautiful day today.
It is.
And for those of you who haven't been to Washington, D.C. and not familiar with the area, this is an absolutely gorgeous spot. The Korean War Memorial is one of, the Korean War Veterans Memorial is one of the most renowned monuments in the city, and it's situated to the west of the National Mall. And today, we just have a lovely audience already starting to build. We're expecting about 3,000.
That's right, about 3,000 people.
About 3,000 people today, so we're very excited about the event. And this all started a little over a year ago at the groundbreaking in May of 2021. And in very short order, the memorial has been refurbished, and it is ready to be rededicated.
This is a long overdue honors for Korean War fallen heroes and for their families who's never had their names recognized before.
That's amazing. So right now what we'd like to do is we want to show you a short video. It's wonderful. It's a great, has beautiful images of the Capitol for those of you not familiar with the area. We're going to roll video now. Thank you.
Sitting on 18 acres of land in the heart of Washington is the home of the President of the United States, the White House. Although the Oval Office is the most recognized room, the White House actually consists of 132 rooms. Just over 16 blocks from the White House stands the United States Capitol. The Capitol complex is comprised of 6 House and Senate buildings, the U.S. Botanical Gardens, the Library of Congress, and the Supreme Court. The Washington Monument soars to a height of 555 feet and can be seen for miles. Built to honor our first president, George Washington, construction started in 1848 and was finally completed in 1884. The Jefferson Memorial stands as a tribute to Thomas Jefferson, our second president and the principal author of the Declaration of Independence. The memorial site on the tidal basin is surrounded by the world-famous cherry blossom trees. The District of Columbia War Memorial, dedicated in 1931, is a reminder of the 499 service members from Washington, D.C. that made the ultimate sacrifice in World War I. Dedicated in 2004, the World War II Memorial honors the 16 million Americans that served during World War II and the 400,000 that did not come home. The Franklin Delano Roosevelt Memorial consists of several scenes that tell the story of our nation's longest-serving president. The Vietnam Memorial is one of the most visited destinations in Washington, D.C. The newest memorial on the National Mall is the Martin Luther King Memorial, a tribute to the civil rights icon. Opened 60 years after his death, the Lincoln Memorial honors President Abraham Lincoln and has served as the backdrop to countless historic events that are woven into our nation's history. Finally, the Korean War Memorial was originally dedicated on July 27, 1995, to honor those who sacrificed so much for freedom in Korea. The Korean War Veterans Memorial Wall of Remembrance broke ground in 2021 and is dedicated on July 27, 2022.
Yeah, that is an absolutely great video. For those of our fellow Americans who haven't had the opportunity to come to D.C., this is absolutely gorgeous. The mall is beautiful, and it's really highlighted on a day like today. So, of course, turning to the reason why we're here today, and really this is kind of a poignant moment, because this monument is really underscores the sacrifice and the sacrifices of our nation and our allied partners during the Korean War. On the 25th of June, 1950, the Republic of Korea was attacked in an unprovoked attack by the communist forces of North Korea. In a very short order, the capital of South Korea, Seoul, was captured, and that was the outset of a very bloody, violent 3-year war. And what this monument does, finally, is to recognize the individuals who were killed in action, missing in action, and our KATUSA, our Korean augmentees to the U.S. Army, who were also lost in action, died bravely fighting on the battlefields of Korea. They are memorialized with individual names on this beautiful polished granite monument.
Right, and there's approximately 36,634 American and 7,174 KATUSA's names intermixed on this beautiful sacred wall.
Right. I mean, that really underscores the cost of the war. And while this is a great moment and it's a culmination of a lot of hard work, I think it also makes us pause and reflect just what a high cost this was during the Korean War. And most of those casualties too occurred very early in the war, when it was a war of movement. In the first 6 months of the war, about 70% of the casualties were incurred during that first part of the war, and then after that, the war kind of settled into a war of attrition. But the costs were very, very high. And what we want to do is roll a video right now that really shows you that cost of the war and the history of the war.
In the early morning hours of June 25th, 1950, South Korean villagers woke to the sounds of artillery explosions and 90,000 North Korean troops crossing the 38th parallel.
Mr. President, the United Nations finds itself confronted today with the gravest crisis in its existence. 48 hours ago, the Security Council, in an emergency session, determined that the armed invasion of the Republic of Korea by armed forces from Northern Korea constituted a breach of the peace. Accordingly, the Security Council called for a cessation of hostilities forthwith and the withdrawal of the Northern Korean authorities of their armed forces to the 38th parallel.
2 days later, on June 27, 1950, President Harry S. Truman proclaimed a national emergency, declaring, "The increasing menace of the forces of communist aggression requires that the national defense of the United States be strengthened as speedily as possible."
On Sunday, June 25th, Communist forces attacked the Republic of Korea. This attack has made it clear beyond all doubt that the international communist movement is willing to use armed invasion to conquer independent nations. An act of aggression such as this, it creates a very real danger to the security of all free nations. The communist invasion was launched in great force with planes, tanks, and artillery. The size of the attack and the speed with which it was followed up make it perfectly plain that it had been plotted long in advance. 52 of the 59 countries which are members of the United Nations have given their support to the action taken by the Security Council to restore peace in Korea. Under the flag of the United Nations, a unified command has been established for all forces of the members of the United Nations fighting in Korea. General Douglas MacArthur is the commander of this combined force.
Barely 5 years after the end of World War II, America was at war again. Once again, through newsreels, newspapers, and magazines, the American public soon learned the names of faraway places in a distant country. The 38th parallel, Seoul, Incheon, Osan, Heartbreak Ridge, and the Chosin Reservoir all became a part of the daily American conversation. Led by the United Nations Command, South Korea, and the United States, allies quickly joined the fight, each contributing in their own way. Canada, Australia, and the United Kingdom combined to contribute almost 58,000 troops. Luxembourg provided 44 troops, and 5 additional countries provided humanitarian aid. By September 2, 1950, 22 nations had amassed a combat force of over 180,000 troops, including tens of thousands of Americans. The first U.S. troops landed at the Busan airport on July 1, 1950, and quickly saw action 4 days later at the Battle of Osan, the first battle between the North Koreans and the United States. 540 troops were sent to Osan to help slow the advance of the North Korean army while more U.S. forces arrived. On July 5th, the American troops engaged a force of over 5,000 North Koreans and 36 tanks. Badly outnumbered, the American troops withdrew from the battlefield, with about 130 killed or missing in action. The month-long battle of the Busan perimeter began on August 4, 1950, and ended on September 16, 1950. In one of the first major battles of the war, the 140,000-man-strong UN command made a final stand along a 140-mile battlefront. Fighting against an enemy force of 98,000, the UN forces were able to stop the tide of the North Korean invasion, and for the first time, the North Koreans were forced to retreat.
At Busan, the UN forces had to stand firm or be pushed off the Korean peninsula. They stood firm.
As the UN forces battled along the Busan perimeter, a surprise amphibious landing took place on the morning of September 15, 1950, in the lightly defended enemy-held Incheon.
Behind the defending ring of troops, reinforcements were pouring into the port of Busan. Soldiers from many lands who had traveled thousands of miles to fight for the right of a distant nation to remain free.
Over 75,000 troops and 261 naval vessels took part in the invasion force, and by September 1950, Incheon was back in Allied control.
U.S. Marines made an amphibious landing 150 miles behind the enemy lines at Incheon. The landing cut off the enemy from his supplies and caught him in a giant United Nations pincers.
By September 25, 1950, the 40,000 UN forces under the command of General MacArthur were entering the heavily fortified outskirts of Seoul.
Exactly 3 months to the day after the city of Seoul fell to the communist invaders, UN forces recapture this South Korean capital. These are Marines and U.S. 7th Division troops advancing into Seoul under enemy fire. Street fighting rages throughout the city. The Reds have fortified many of the buildings, and red tanks may appear around any corner.
After a 5-day battle for Seoul, General MacArthur announces the city's recapture on 26 September. There's still fighting in the city, but the main communist garrison is fleeing to the north. UN troops rest as they close another chapter. After major victories at Incheon and Seoul, the UN forces continued to rapidly push north into North Korea. On November 17, 1950, a communist Chinese force of an estimated 120,000 troops surprised the 30,000-strong UN command forces at the Chosin Reservoir. under the most brutal conditions, 36 degrees below zero, mountainous terrain with equipment that would not work under the bitter cold. The UN forces were surrounded. After a 17-day battle, the UN forces were able to escape and fight a running battle back to the Hungnam airport. The UN forces paid a heavy cost. Over 1,000 troops were killed in action, 4,500 plus were wounded, and over 4,000 missing. Estimates place the Chinese losses at over 45,000 total casualties. After the North Korean army withdrew from the Battle of Bloody Ridge, they reformed a defensive line about 1,500 yards away on what became known as Heartbreak Ridge. From September 13th to October 15th, 1951, UN forces and North Korean forces attacked and counterattacked. Day after day, the UN forces would mount an offensive attack up the ridgeline, briefly hold the line, and be pushed back by a vicious counterattack. Entire units were wiped out. On October 11th, the UN forces launched a massive armored attack utilizing more than 30 tanks, aircraft, and artillery to break the North's supply line. After 30 days of fighting, the UN forces were able to secure the ridge. As the armistice talks dragged on throughout 1952 and early 1953, the UN and the Communist forces traded battle lines with neither force able to make significant advances. If they did advance, territory gained one day would be lost the next. Battles were fought over hills that looked just like the hill from yesterday and the week before. All through July 1953, rumors ran rampant that peace was at hand. And then on July 27, 1953, the news broke.
In Korea, 3 years of combat end as United Nations and Communist negotiators at Panmunjom sign a truce. The long war, undertaken to stop red aggression, is over. The enemy holds less territory than before his troops marched, but the cost has been bitter for both sides. With fighting ended, a political conference is slated to deal with the touchy problem of unifying Korea and assuring peace. Neutral observers are already present to oversee adherence to armistice terms.
The bulky agreement spells out in minute detail every provision of the truce, and the actual signing is a complicated affair. Each delegate present must sign his name 9 times, and each delegation has 5 members. The ceasefire is good news to the men on the front. At Woosan Base Camp, just behind enemy lines, Supreme Commander Mark Clark affixes his signature, and the armistice becomes official, and the fighting is over. Prisoners will be exchanged, but there is little rejoicing. The Cold War is on, and the world wonders what's next.
We have won an armistice on a single battleground, not peace in the world. We may not now relax our guard nor cease our quest. Throughout the coming months, during the period of prisoner screening and exchange, and during the possibly longer period of the political conference which looks toward the unification of Korea, we and our United Nation allies must be vigilant against the possibility of untoward developments.
By the time the Korean War armistice was signed on July 27, 1953, over 1.7 million Americans had served in the Korean War theater. Over 33,000 had been killed in action, and 133 Medals of Honor were awarded, 95 posthumously. To date, there has not been a formal peace agreement to end the war, and 45 years later, the USA still has over 28,000 troops that stand at the ready in South Korea.
We shall fervently strive to ensure that this armistice will, in fact, bring free peoples one step nearer to their goal of a world at peace.
Yeah, that's an incredibly powerful video, Susan. You know, it seems crazy. It was such a consequential period in history, the Korean War, you know, but yet it's often referred to as the forgotten war. Why do you think that's the case?
Well, I think President Truman did not have Congress declare war was the biggest reason. And he went to the UN instead to ask for other United Nations to pass a resolution to engage UN forces there with the United States leading its command. So that is a big part of the reason why the American public did not see it as a war. And also, it followed World War II, and I think the American public was very tired of war. And so between World War II and Vietnam, Korea sits as a 3-year war and has been forgotten about because the major wars were World War II and Vietnam as well.
It almost seems like we had to have, 75 years of history to realize just how important it was, because, we look at what the Republic of Korea has become today, a modern, vibrant democracy, one of the world's leading economies. None of that would have been possible without the sacrifices of the veterans who served so honorably in Korea 72 years ago.
Absolutely. And of course the 36,000 fallen heroes as well. Now we are going to go to a video here from Senior Pastor Lee of Full Gospel Church.
Praise the name of the Lord. This is Young-Hoon Lee. I'm the senior pastor of Yoido Full Gospel Church, Seoul, Republic of Korea. First of all, I would like to express my most sincere thanks to all the veterans who paid the invariable sacrifice during the Korean War, which gave birth to a faithful alliance between the Republic of Korea and the United States. 72 years ago, young soldiers of the United States of America came all the way to the Korean Peninsula to defend the freedom and democracy of a country they never knew and a people they never met. The precious blood they shed so that we could have peace here on the Korean Peninsula. We are deeply grateful for the noble sacrifices of countless veterans who fought during the Korean War, including the 36,940 U.S. soldiers whose names are engraved here on the Wall of Remembrance. We are also indebted to and honor the families of the soldiers who gave the full measure of their dedication and support to them. It is their sacrifices which have guaranteed the freedom and democracy of the Republic of Korea for the last 72 years. As a result, South Korea has now developed into one of the world's top 10 economic superpower countries. The Wall of Remembrance will be a lasting tribute honoring all the veterans of the Korean War and will become a symbol of light that will lead us all into a bright future of South Korea and United States relations. From now on, the Republic of Korea and the United States will fully fulfill the mission of not only further strengthening the Korea-U.S. alliance, but also working diligently for the world peace beyond East Asia. I pray that God's blessing and grace will be with both the Republic of Korea and the United States. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pastor Lee. That was a beautiful message, and we're going to have another video pretty soon on the Korean War Veterans Memorial Foundation. But before we turn to the video, I just wanted to remark about how important the foundation's work has been to not only the Wall of Remembrance, but to the monument itself in its initial inception.
Yes.
If it wasn't for the foundation, the Korean War Veterans Memorial never would have been built. And it's really hard to talk about the foundation without talking about Colonel Bill Weber, too, who has been the inspiration and the workhorse behind the efforts to get the Wall of Remembrance built. But the foundation's work has been so great. They've finished this project in record time and really yielded a beautiful result.
Right, and you were here last year for the groundbreaking.
I was here for the groundbreaking,
right.
and here we are, just a little over a year later, and we're ready to go. So we're gonna go to the video now with General Tilley.
Welcome, everyone. I'm John Tilley, General United States Army, retired. Chairman of the Korean War Veterans Memorial Foundation. We are here at this great memorial, the Korean War Memorial on the Mall in Washington, D.C. This memorial was dedicated in 1995, and this memorial gives a glimpse to over 4 million visitors each year of our nation's honor to those who paid the price for freedom and democracy in the Republic of Korea. But what you're seeing today is a totally renovated memorial, and also the addition of a Wall of Remembrance, which has the names of those who paid the ultimate price. The memorial consists of 5 major elements: the United Nations curb, the mural wall, the pool of remembrance, the field of service containing the 19 statues, and the new dedicated Wall of Remembrance, each honoring all those who served in the Korean War. The United Nations curb lines the walkway that leads from the start of the memorial to the pool of remembrance. The nations are placed in alphabetical order, listing all of the 22 nations that participated in the Korean War. 17 of those nations provided combat units, and 5 provided medical support. The mural wall is located along the southern side of the memorial and consists of Academy black granite that ranges from 4.5 to 11 feet tall. There are 41 panels that have 19 different themes. There are 2,400 images of the Korean War that were selected from the archives. They are grouped by service branch, and then it was sandblasted to get the effect that you can see. If you look at the lighting just right, you'll see that there's a reflection of the statues from the field of service. The images are grouped by their service branch. The first service branch is the United States Army, and then it goes to the Air Force, and then it goes to the Navy. We're looking at the series of panels in the Army. You're going to start to see that they start off with the Chaplain's Corps, and it also notes the different religions of the service members that served in the conflict. As you continue down, you'll see that there are fighter jets, jet bombers, and troop transport planes of the United States Air Force. Now we're starting to get to the images of the United States Navy, the corpsmen, the pilots. The Pool of Remembrance is 128 feet in diameter, and it's constructed from granite. In the Pool of Remembrance, there's a triangular section that juts into the Pool of Remembrance. This is the biggest stone of the memorial, and it states clearly that freedom is not free. The statues are a most recognizable feature of the memorial. There are 19 statues consisting of all 4 services on patrol coming out of a tree line in Korea. They're going through the rice paddies as you're going through and over the junipers. In the original design of the memorial, there used to be 38 statues, and in the final design, the number was reduced to 19. But in reality, as you look over to the mural wall, you'll see the reflections of the 19 statues. So if you see the reflections of the 19 of the real statues, you can get 38 statues, which is significant when you think about the 38th parallel. The statues are 8 feet tall. They weigh about 800 pounds. And they were first placed in one day, April 17, 1995. As a part of the memorial renovation, the statues were cleaned, repatinaed, a wax coating was placed on them to protect them from the sun, and appear as they did when the memorial was first dedicated. Looking at this statue, the Army leading scout, on point, and you'll see the radio operator and the long antenna that was critical for communications, not only along the front line, but also to the rear for supplies, food, ammunition, and transportation. Notice that the Army medic and the Navy corpsman are not carrying rifles. The Navy corpsman is not carrying a rifle, but he's carrying a rucksack. The Navy corpsman was part of the Marine units to help take care of their medical needs. Dedicated on July 27, 2022, the Wall of Remembrance is the newest addition to the Korean War Veterans Memorial. The wall displays the names of 36,634 U.S. military personnel and 7,174 Korean Augmentation to the United States Army, or KATUSAs, who gave the ultimate sacrifice in the defense of freedom. The Wall of Remembrance will be displayed by service in order of precedence: Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force. And each panel will be grouped by rank, followed by a listing of the names in alphabetical order. Ranks will start from the lowest to the highest. The result shows the burden of war to the U.S. military. The Medal of Honor, our nation's highest military honor, was awarded to 147 United States servicemen for service above and beyond the call of duty. During the construction of the Wall of Remembrance, the memorial went through a complete renovation, ensuring that the memorial will stand as a testament to all those who served and sacrificed for generations of visitors, and a constant reminder that freedom is not free.
Thank you all for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the tour online. This is a very important memorial to the many veterans, the families of the fallen, and the many citizens of the United States and the Republic of Korea. It shows the strength and ironclad alliance between the Republic of Korea and the United States of America. And lastly, it educates over 4 million visitors each year. If you want to know more about the memorial, visit KoreanWarVetsMemorial.org.
And now a tribute to Colonel Bill Weber.
Late afternoon of the 26th of June, U.S. time, we received information that there had been an altercation in Korea and found out that we had been alerted to go to Korea. And my battalion was attached to the 1st Marine Division for the battle for Seoul. And we remained attached to the 1st Marine Division until Seoul had been secured. The Chinese had clearly signaled that if American forces continued to advance to the Yalu, they would enter the war, because there's no way the Chinese wanted the United States on their border, which occasioned their entry into the war. And the Chinese chose to build up north of Seoul and also in central Korea, north of Wonju. Wonju was a critical rail and road junction. MacArthur ordered 8th Army that we would hold what we called the Wonju salient. My company, and I was the company commander, we were given a mission of taking Hill 342, which was a key peak north of Wonju. 10 o'clock at night, I ordered my company to attack the 342, the main position, which was then occupied by about 2 companies of Chinese. And we successfully took the hill. They retreated to the base of the hill and were reinforced by a battalion and started a counterattack. So the fight went on all night. Around midnight, 12:30, something like that, I got hit by a grenade and lost my arm. The temperature was like 30 below zero, bitter cold. So blood congealed immediately, which saved many lives, strangely enough. My first sergeant wrapped it up. I had no pain. I continued to lead my company. And about an hour later, I got hit again and it took the leg, which of course then put me down. My company held the hill, beat off the repeated attacks by a Chinese battalion, which was 4 times that of my company. That was left of my company. I already had about 37 casualties on the hill, dead and wounded. They were the key leaders, the squad leaders, platoon leaders. They're the ones that get hit first because of their location and what they're doing. but my company held the hill. When daylight came, 342 still belonged to K Company, the 187th.
Sadly, Colonel Weber did not live to see the completion of the War of Remembrance. On April 11, 2022, he passed away, and tributes poured in from across the globe. On June 22, 2022, Colonel Weber made his last visit to the memorial. Later in the day, he was buried with full military honors at Arlington National Cemetery. Colonel Weber's presence will always be felt at the memorial. If you look closely at statue number 16, he served as the model.
It's a bittersweet moment for Colonel Weber. You know, he was such a driving force behind the Wall of Remembrance, and you know, he kind of made it to the mountaintop, but not to the promised land. He got us all here, and he made this moment possible. You know, he's had an extraordinary career. You know, the video talked about his service. You know, he was a double amputee as a result of his injuries that he sustained at the Wanju salient, and that never slowed him down. He was, you know, he stayed on active duty in the U.S. Army for another 30 years, contributing as a vital Army officer. And that's just who he was. He had a powerful personality. And Bill's, you know, ultimate goal always from the time the monument was built was to get this wall built. He thought that the names needed to be included in this monument, that they needed to be remembered. And, you know, you think about statue number 16, that was modeled after Colonel Bill Weber. So he'll always be part of this memorial. And now, you know, I know we want to talk a little bit about the KATUSAs, the Korean augmentees to the U.S. Army, and the special role that they played.
Right. So these were Korean soldiers that were attached to U.S. units during the Korean War. And actually, my father was a KATUSA. He was attached to the 3rd Infantry Division of the U.S. Army. And on this Wall of Remembrance, we have over 7,000 Korean names embedded in the U.S. Army section with American soldiers. And just as they fought on the battlefields together, they are now honored together on this granite wall of remembrance. And this is the only American memorial where we have foreign names etched in them. So this is quite an honor and a recognition of what they did as well.
Yeah, as a battalion commander in Korea myself, I had Korean augmentees to the U.S. Army serving in my battalion. So this is a tradition that continues to the present day. KATUSAs still serve in the United States Army, and they are the creme de la creme of Korea. They're handpicked, and we've got a little video now that shows us a little bit about the KATUSAs and their contribution.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Kim Jong-wook, the Emeritus Chairman of KATUSA Veterans Association. KATUSA program was initiated by General MacArthur and Honorable Seungman Lee, the President of the Republic of Korea. This idea was formulated as Korean Augmentation to the U.S. Army, KATUSA program, and the very first KATUSA soldier was assigned on August 15, 1950. During the Korean War, the 43,660 KATUSA soldiers participated with 1.8 million U.S. forces. Sadly, around 37,000 U.S. soldiers and around 11,000 KATUSA soldiers were killed in action. We remember them and we honor them. Korea was just a small country and not known to many people, but now it has become one of the global leading countries. The selfless service and devotion of those who fought during the Korean War made this small country big. Specifically, the name of 36,634 U.S. casualties and 7,174 KATUSA casualties are engraved on this Wall of Remembrance. They fought together during the war, and they are still together on this Wall of the Remembrance. Now, I feel that the soul of my KATUSA ancestors is still alive here in the Wall of Remembrance, defending both nations, peace and freedom. Freedom and democracy are values ROC and the U.S. have shared for a long time, and we know that those are not free. These values are the legacy of those who devoted and sacrificed themselves to save our nation. Also, we will never forget Colonel Weber's dedication to honoring those who served during the Korean War. His devotion to establishing this Wall of Remembrance will never be forgotten, and we will do our best to make the ROC-US alliance even stronger. We go together. 같이 갑시다. Thank you.
And now we're going to turn to Charlene Wells with an interview from one of our former service members who has experience with the KATUSAs.
Thank you so much, Dave. I am with Gates Bresno, combat veteran, Sergeant First Class, who served with the 45th Infantry Division 70 years ago. He was in Korea, and you led a squad of Korean augmentees to the U.S. Army, the KATUSAs. Could you describe what that was like to serve alongside with them?
At first, it was difficult because we didn't speak the same language.
Good morning, everyone.
And they didn't like the food.
Hello, good morning. All of
But
the folks here in front of the podium,
after a while, they became, with our training, and they became, good soldiers that you could depend on. And they learned right away, and I did too, that I had their back, they had my back. So when I went to my knees, they lifted me. When they went to the knees, we lifted them. And I went into combat for the first time with 4 KATUSAs only in my squad. That's all I had. And I lost the first 2 the first night, or the first day. Went into a burning bunker, pulled them out. And so for that rest of that day, I had me and 2 KATUSAs. And we covered a squad area, the 3 of us, until the whole outfit moved up. And so after that, we kept getting replacements, but the KATUSAs were used if a squad becomes short, then you'd move the KATUSA to that squad. And they took training very well. I learned to love them, and they learned to love us, And we were all integrated. And for the first time, I think, ever in any kind of a war, I had myself, boys from all different places, blacks, great soldiers from New Orleans, and Korean soldiers, all in the same squad and in the same platoon. We were a big mix.
What is the significance to you of having the names of those killed in action, the KATUSAs, on the new Wall of Remembrance?
Oh, repeat the question again.
The names of those who were killed in action, the KATUSAs, are right alongside the names of our own service members.
Right. I was there yesterday and looked for a couple of fellows that were in my outfit that I lost, and found them, and I went to the wall, and they're all there. I just got the impression they're there. They're here. You've just felt it. I feel it now. I'm getting goosebumps all the time.
Thank you so much for being with us. 91 years old, like he's 30 years old. Dave, back to you guys.
Thanks, Charlene. And now we have a special message from Congresswoman Young Kim.
Hi, I'm Congresswoman Young Kim, representative of California's 39th Congressional District. This includes parts of Orange, Los Angeles, and San Bernardino counties. I'm honored to be with you all virtually as we engrave the names of U.S. and KATUSA soldiers' names to the Korean War Veterans Memorial Wall of Remembrance. As an immigrant from South Korea, whose family lived through the Korean War, and a wife, and as a sister of veterans, I know that I'm here because of the sacrifices of our brave Korean War veterans. Words alone cannot express how grateful I am. I think of a quote etched from the DC Memorial that states, "Our nation honors her sons and daughters who defended a country they never knew and a people they never met." As we commemorate over 72 years since the Korean War, we honor the more than 5.7 million Americans who served, including the 2.25 million Korean War veterans alive today, and remember the more than 36,000 Americans and 1 million South Korean civilians and soldiers who gave their lives to protect freedom. Those who served in the Korean War to protect our freedoms are heroes, and their stories and sacrifices are embedded in each of us always. Thank you.
As a Korean American myself, just like Congresswoman Kim, I absolutely understand that we have our lives and freedoms today because of the sacrifice of these American fallen heroes who gave their lives for us. And so this wall is not just a stone wall for me or any of the families. This is really a sacred memorial that also serves as a gravestone for the families of missing in action. They don't have a grave. They don't have a gravestone to mourn. So this is the only place where they can come to honor their loved ones and to know that their loved ones' names will never be forgotten and always remembered for what they have done for the cause of freedom.
Yeah, it's remarkable, and the engineering feat to make this day possible is amazing as well. And this next segment that we've got coming up, this video, shows the process and the remaking of the Wall of Remembrance and how the monument was lifted. And we're going to roll right into this video.
The journey to today's dedication of the Wall of Remembrance has spanned the last decade and the entire country. The Korean War Veterans Memorial Foundation began working with congressional leaders to authorize a Wall of Remembrance as part of the Korean War Veterans Memorial and to allow private contributions to fund that Wall of Remembrance. In March 2015, legislation was introduced by Representative Sam Johnson with fellow Korean War veterans, Representatives Charles Rangel and John Conyers.
I'd like to start off by thanking my fellow Korean War veterans, Congressman Charlie Rangel and Congressman John Conyers, for their support. Additionally, I want to thank my fellow Korean War veterans who have tirelessly advocated for this bill.
Why this is so important to me is not for those who are living, but for the memories of our colleagues who died overseas and whose family have very little to explain as to why they were there.
The magnitude of sacrifice made by Americans during this conflict was enormous. More than 36,000 Americans gave their lives. My fellow Korean War veterans and I believe that the magnitude of this enormous sacrifice is not yet fully conveyed by the memorial in Washington, D.C. That's where this bill, H.R. 1475, the Korean War Veterans Memorial Wall of Remembrance Act, comes to play.
After working its way through the halls of Congress with the support of over 300 members, the Wall of Remembrance Act was signed into law by President Obama on October 7, 2016. As the design of the memorial came into focus, the foundation began to raise the funds to construct the memorial. The legislation stated that no federal money could be spent on the project. Over the next 6 years, more than $22 million was raised to support the Wall of Remembrance through generous contributions made by the citizens of the Republic of Korea and the many American and Korean individuals, organizations, and corporations. On May 21, 2021, the Foundation celebrated the groundbreaking ceremony for the Wall of Remembrance.
The official party will now prepare for the groundbreaking of the Wall of Remembrance.
이어서 추모의 벽 공사의 시작을 알리는 행사를 진행하겠습니다.
President Moon, Secretary Austin, Mr. Charles McGovern, and Dr. Paul Cunningham will now reveal the first stone replica of the Wall of Remembrance.
먼저 문재인 대통령님과 오스틴 미 국방장관, 찰스 맥거버님, 폴 커닝햄 박사님께서 첫 번째 명판 제막을 하시겠습니다.
please direct your attention to the ceremonial box as Chairman Tilley, Governor Larry Hogan, Superintendent Jeff Reinbold, Colonel Weber, Chairman Sun, and Secretary Hwang Gi-cheol with Ambassador Lee Soo-hyuk will now conduct the official groundbreaking for the Wall of Remembrance.
이어서 귀빈들께서 시삽을 하시겠습니다.
The panel started the journey to Washington, D.C. in a quarry near Sacramento, California, owned by Cold Spring Granite in Cold Spring, Minnesota. Huge 170-foot-long granite boulders were selected to match the existing memorial granite. The quarry cut the boulders into large pieces weighing between 6 and 8 tons. The pieces were then sent to be shaped into panels with exact specifications, followed by the process of polishing the granite and etching the names. The last step before the completed panels could be shipped to Washington was the dry fitting. The 100 panels were assembled just as they would be at the memorial to make sure that the fit was perfect. As the granite panels were being carved, the memorial underwent a complete renovation. In late December 2021, the first of the granite panels were placed at the memorial.
Honorable Korean War veterans and bereaved families. Yesterday, as I was visiting the Arlington National Cemetery, I realized while the life of individuals is respected, those who dedicate themselves in the service of their neighbors and communities are bestowed the highest honor and courtesy, the very root that firmly undergirds America. There, I encountered the spirit that defines America, which guided the world towards freedom and peace. 71 years back, young men and women of America came in a heartbeat to the Korean Peninsula in the thick of gunsmoke. They were the sons and daughters of America who answered the call to defend a country they never knew and a people they never met. The descendants of the founding fathers of your great country. Thanks to their devotion and sacrifice, the Republic of Korea could safeguard its freedom and peace and become a prosperous nation that it is today. Inevitably, however, we had to part with countless fallen heroes. Today, we are breaking ground for the Wall of Remembrance, which will be home to the names of 43,769 such heroes. Now, their courage and commitment shall live forever, deeply ingrained in our memory. In 2018, I gave my word to the UN War Veterans that a wall would be built to remember their names. 3 years later today, I am immeasurably touched that the promise has been kept.
This time-lapse shows the construction process to build the Korean War Veterans Memorial Wall of Remembrance.
As a veteran and POW, I can tell you that these memorials are a special place for service members and their families to pay their respects to fallen comrades and loved ones. I believe these memorials also serve as a unique and physical reminder that freedom is not free. Future generations need to know and appreciate the sacrifices made by the service members who fought and died to protect freedom. These memorials can physically convey what oftentimes our words fail to do. I can't think of a better way to individually honor each man and woman who gave their life in Korea than through this Wall of Remembrance.
quite an achievement.
Yes, it is. Well, I think it's also important today to recognize the families left behind whose loved ones were killed or became missing during the Korean War. You know, yesterday we had a special visit to the memorial for the families to see the Wall of Remembrance that bears their loved one's name. So they were the first group of people, especially given that opportunity. And it was a really emotional visit for these families, especially for those of the missing, where this is really their gravestone of their loved one. So this will always be a place where the families of the fallen will find healing and honor for their loved ones.
And we're going to turn it over to two with a Gold Star family member, Mr. Mike Logan.
What does the Wall of Remembrance mean to your family and the missing in action service members?
Well, it means a lot to all the Gold Star families for sure. And I want to thank all the Korean people, the Korean Veterans Memorial Fund, for making this happen. 72 years in the making. It's a long time, but it's well worth it. It's a beautiful monument. It's a beautiful tribute to all those who served and died. Ones like my father, who is a MIA POW. It's incredible for this day to finally get here. And I want to thank all those that were involved in this beautiful ceremony and all the contributions made by the Korean people is just magnificent.
Thank you, Mike. Back to you, Susan and Dave.
Well, you know, over the past 10 years, I've had an opportunity to meet so many Gold Star families, especially those that come to the DPAA meetings here for those that are still missing in action. And, you know, the first meeting I went to, I saw families hold up pictures of their loved ones. And for these families, not a day goes by when they don't think about where their loved ones may be and whether they may even be found.
Well, that's an incredible point, and I think it's, you know, maybe this monument and Wall of Remembrance will give some closure to our Gold Star families and those who have service members still missing in action.
Yes, absolutely. So this will be a sacred place for so many families to remember and honor their loved ones. And as a Korean, I know every day that my life is possible because of what their loved ones gave up and also what these families have also sacrificed. So these families have also made immeasurable sacrifices for the Korean people.
Susan, I think now we have a word from Reverend So from the Say Eden Church. Is that not coming? Okay, so yeah, you know, to your point, this monument is absolutely epitomizes the service and sacrifice of those that were lost, and you know, I'm just thrilled that it's finally come to fruition.
Right. You know, as a Korean, it is really hard to describe the depth of gratitude we feel for a people from America to have come halfway around the world to fight for a people they did not even know. And my mom remembers a day when she saw an American plane in the sky. And at seeing that, she thought, wow, the good guys are here to save us.
So I guess now we are ready to go to the stage for comments by Reverend So from the Say Eden Church. While we're waiting for the Reverend to take the stand, Susan, now, you know, talking on the line of as a Korean American, how do you feel today yourself about this experience?
Well,
I know this is...
Yes, this is really hard to describe, but one thing I thank God for every day is for this great country that would send these young men to fight for the cause of freedom, for a people and a country they never even heard of. You know, I've interviewed a lot of Korean War veterans over the years. They didn't even know where Korea was. And yet, they felt this duty to serve their country and to defend others who were threatened by oppression from a communist regime. So as a Korean American, I really feel that there are no words or actions that can ever make up for the immeasurable sacrifice these fallen heroes made and also their families. So for the families who are watching out there,
And now, Reverend So.
Lady. Test. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to introduce our distinguished guest from St. Eden Church, Reverend So.
Hello, good morning. Please, attention, please. To the souls and unforgettable names of heroes. This name in the Wall of Remembrance, the unforgettable names of soul flowers, fragrance of the 135,000 young men who bled and perished in battles, nourished the blood-tide alliance. The relationship grew to combine military and economic cooperation. Now let us pray that the ties will bind the souls of the two peoples, Korean and Americans, forever, not allowed to forget each other. Here is the promise of our people coming here in Washington to call your names again and again. From the bottom of our hearts, keeping in our souls the beautiful names of the fallen flowers. Oh Lord, let the guardians of freedom and peace in this Wall of Remembrance appear again over the stormy demarcation line of Korean armistice. Shine the sky of the divided land as stars of love, never fading in any gusty winds of conflicts. And let them bloom in the flowers of freedom that will cover the Wall of Remembrance dedicated today as the tent of peace and reconciliation over the Korean DMZ. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we would now like to welcome the Army-Navy Band, Pershing Zone. Please give a big round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to introduce you to a national award-winning journalist, a U.S. War College instructor for more than a decade, and news anchor for the ABC Channel 7. Please welcome Mr. Jonathan Elias.
Good morning, everybody. I was hoping those clouds would last a little longer for us because it's going to start to get a little sweaty out there, especially for our friends in uniform. How about a round of applause for Pershing's Own over there? I'm not sure if you know this, and I'm sure gentlemen here with the 4 stars, that's what happens when you get 5 stars. You get your own band, Pershing's Own. These are traveling ambassadors. They're amazing, amazing musical artists. You could put them at any symphony anywhere in the world, and they'd fit right in. There's more than 200 of them. We have over 50 of them with us today to help entertain us. I see everybody's getting their reps in, their exercise by fanning themselves. Please keep that up and make sure you hydrate as well. Thank you for being here today. I really was amazed when I was asked to do this, especially for the Korean War Memorial, the rededication here. When I was a student of history in school, I remember when we were learning about the Korean War, they said that this was the forgotten war. From a military family, I thought to myself, how on God's green earth do you forget war? Once you've ever learned about war or been involved in a war, you can never forget that. There's a lot of families with us today that can attest to that. But this was a war that cost nearly 5 million lives in 3 years' time. So by my account, that's probably one of the costliest wars we've ever seen on our planet. And you think about what's happening now with this Wall of Remembrance, and just take a second at some point today and walk over there and look at the names. 36,000 plus Americans, young Americans, that lost their lives fighting in that war. And 7,000 South Korean counterparts right alongside them. 43,000 names in 3 years' time. And if you do the math, we're looking at more than 1,000 people killed, not wounded, not MIA, killed in a month. That's a lot of people. So in my world, that's a war that should never be forgotten, nor should it ever be called the forgotten war. You can't forget war. And that's why this memorial stands today with 19 statues of men in ponchos walking through a rice field. And I'm not sure if you know it, but every one of those that represent some different branch of our military, but those are actual faces of people that served in the Korean conflict. And then you look around at the wall behind it, that mural, that mosaic of faces. Those are actual faces of men who served, some who sacrificed in the Korean War. And now that we've added the Wall of Remembrance, we know the names attached to it. And if you think about it, here on the National Mall, it's such a beautiful place, and it's a lot better when it's about 15 or 20 degrees cooler. But when you think about this memorial as opposed to some of the other memorials, this adds a layer of humanity because you actually get to see the faces of those who have served and those who have sacrificed. And we'll talk more about that in just a little bit. You can't ask for a better place for it to be preserved and for it to be taken care of than the National Park Service. What I want to do is ask you to turn your attention to the big screens. The National Park Service is going to continue to take care of all the memorials on this mall, including the Korean Memorial. We want to introduce now the National Capital Area Director, Kim Hall.
Good morning. My name is Kim Hall, and I have the honor of being the Regional Director for the National Park Service's National Capital Region, which includes the memorials on the National Mall. As caretakers of the Korean War Veterans Memorial, the National Park Service joins all of you in celebrating the completion of the Wall of Remembrance. The addition to this memorial of the names of more than 36,000 Americans who fell serving their country during the Korean War, as well as more than 7,100 Koreans who died while augmenting the American forces, creates a powerful visual display of the human cost of war. We are appreciative that this project also included a complete rehabilitation of the existing memorial, ensuring that the nearly 4 million people who visit this memorial each year will find a fitting tribute to those who served and died in Korea. We thank the Republic of Korea for their generous financial support in bringing this project to fruition and are grateful to the Korean War Veterans Memorial Foundation for their strong ongoing partnership in not only conceiving and implementing this project, but continued assistance in the long-term maintenance and programming activities at the memorial. On behalf of the National Park Service, we wish you congratulations on the dedication of the Wall of Remembrance today and look forward to sharing its meaning with our visitors in the years to come.
In the Korean conflict, the Korean War, we thought it was a policing action. That's what it was told to the American people at the time. The North Koreans had come across that 38th parallel and doing unspeakable things to the civilian base in South Korea. At that time, the UN, then in control by General MacArthur, ordered U.S. forces that were just 5 years removed from the end of World War II. They traveled to the peninsula, and they thought it was a policing action. A lot of these young guys that were going over there, they were told there might be a conflict, there's a policing action, we're just going to push the North Koreans back across that parallel and call it a day. It was anything but. Names became household items. Incheon, the Chosin Reservoir. I mean, these were places that nobody had ever heard of, but after that war, it's really all the families could talk about. And then these young people, the first casualty of that war was a 19-year-old machine gunner who was killed. We began to realize the cost quickly, what it was going to take to put an end to this war. And then the numbers added up. And if you're not familiar with the military, if some are joining us today who don't have an understanding of Blue Star and Gold Star families, Blue Star families are those that have dedicated somebody in their family to the cause. And Gold Star families are those that have lost somebody in that cause. So behind me there's an inscription that says, freedom isn't free. If you want to know what the price of war is, it's an incalculable, horrific equation. And that equation, it means that there is now a black hole in some family, some member that will never come home, and somebody that will never be forgotten. At this point, if you're comfortable, I would like all members of the Gold Star families to please rise so that we can recognize you for your service and your sacrifice. Thank you very much. I've always said that those who get deployed to war, it's not just the warrior that's going off to fight. The family is sacrificing right along with them. Sleepless nights, worrying, going through holidays without that loved one there to be there for the kids. But also with Korea, we have a number of veterans. This is a 70-plus-year-old war now at this point. So we have lost a lot of veterans over the years. I've had family members that we have lost that served in Korea. But there are veterans with us today, and at this time I would like to ask all Korean veterans to please stand so we can recognize you as well. I think it goes without saying, to the veterans and the Gold Star families, we owe you a debt that we can never repay. But the least we can do today is say thank you and introduce you to the new Korean Memorial, the addition that's been made that adds the names to those who have been lost. Now's a pretty good time to work those fans a little harder. I want to introduce to you again Pershing's Own for another song. How cool would that be if you were a general, you had your own band, you say, hey guys, why don't you bring out some members, let's have a good time this weekend. What I want to do now is I want to introduce to you, because during the Korean conflict, as you know, South Koreans, 7,000 names inscribed on now the Wall of Remembrance, those were South Koreans that fought right alongside American forces. The ROC has brought to us today the ambassador to the United States, and I want to introduce to you now His Excellency Chiang Cho.
Well, honored Gold Star families, the veterans of the Korean War, distinguished guests, it is my greatest honor to be part of this meaningful event as Ambassador of the Republic of Korea. Thank you for joining us for today's dedication ceremony. 27 years ago, today, people gathered here to dedicate this memorial to those who served during the Korean War. In the ensuing years, it has become a sacred place to remember the men and women who fought for freedom on the Korean Peninsula. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here today to unveil a new addition to the memorial, Wall of Remembrance, that features 43,808 names of the war's fallen heroes, 36,634 American soldiers, and 7,174 Korean KATUSA soldiers, side by side. This war reminds us of the depths of their sacrifice and instills in us a call of duty to carry on their fight. The service members we are here today to honor stood their ground in battlefields so that future generations could live in a vibrant democracy. Indeed, Republic Korea is a vibrant democracy today. Recognizing this, I promise to follow their lead and work to build an even stronger ROK-US alliance. So on behalf of the whole Korean people, I would like to express my gratitude to all the veterans of the Korean War and their families. We are eternally and profoundly grateful. Now, I'd like to recognize the countries that defended freedom and democracy on the Korean Peninsula 70 years ago. Starting with Australia. Belgium. Canada. Colombia. Denmark. Ethiopia. France. Greece. India. Italy. Luxembourg. The Netherlands. New Zealand. Norway. The Philippines. The Republic of Korea. South Africa, Sweden, Thailand, Turkey, the United Kingdom, last but by no means least, the United States of America. Thank you very much.
You know, we could add more to this program, but just looking out at you, and I'm seeing everybody's losing some LBs, which in some of our cases, not a bad thing. But I'm going to try and cut this a little shorter. What I'd like to do now is I'm going to turn our attention, if we could. Pershing's Own would like to play one more song for us. Take it away. I was remiss not to mention that Pershing's Own has a chorus, too. They sound beautiful. Before we do the next part of our presentation, I would like to do this. I would like to ask and thank every member of our military. I don't care if you're with the United States or you're with an attaché from another government or representative. At this point, please stand so we can recognize your service and your sacrifice. It is a calling for people to serve. They don't do it for the money. They do it to serve something greater than themselves. Please, all the men and women in uniform, stand so we can recognize you, and those not in uniform. That includes you, fellas. Always raise my kids up that you don't just on Veterans Day find somebody and shake their hand and thank them for their service. Veterans Day is every day. If you enjoy your freedom, freedom isn't, 6 hours a day, it's 24/7. And it's there because of those folks willing to put on a uniform and be the sentinels on the front line to protect our freedom. So we thank you very much for your service. And with that said, I'm going to get a little support here now. If you have never heard this rendition of Pershing's Own, Salute to Service, here's the deal. They're going to play the song. Every member of the different branches, although Space Force doesn't quite have a chorus as of yet, and they haven't changed the Pentagon into a 6-sided building as of yet. But here's the drill. When you hear your service, please stand so we can recognize you. And audience, it does make you cooler when you applaud louder. Pershing's Own, please take it away. To all who serve, thank you. To all who sacrifice, thank you. To the families who put up with it, we thank you as well. It's a lot to contend with, trust me. I've been there, done that. What I want to do now is I want to introduce you to the official party. Coming up on stage, Jake Sullivan, National Security Advisor of the United States. ROK Ambassador to the United States, His Excellency Tianyong Chao. ROK National Minister of Defense, Minister Yong Sup Lee. Minister of Patriots and Veterans Affairs, Minister Min Shik Park. Doug Emhoff, Second Gentleman of the United States. And General John Tilley, Chairman of the Korean War Veterans Memorial Committee.
Please have a seat, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Korean War Veterans Memorial. We are honored to have you here with us today, both in person and with those at home viewing today's special event. My name is Larry Henschel, Korean name Yi Seung-jae, and it is my greatest honor and privilege to be your Master of Ceremonies for today's Wall of Remembrance dedication ceremony. On June 25th, 72 years ago, North Korea's invasion of the South erupted into a 3-year war from ideological differences. 72 years ago, roughly 1,780,000 Americans left their homes, said farewell to their families, and put their lives on the line for the freedom of a foreign country, a country far away from home. Today marks the 69th anniversary of the end of that war. In this inaugural moment, we are witnessing a moment in history. Many of us here today can afford this freedom due to the names listed on the Wall of Remembrance. It is our duty as Americans and Koreans to commemorate the noble sacrifice made by the 43,808 service members listed on that very wall. We are here to remember and honor all those who gave the ultimate sacrifice and to thank the families of those who gave the last full measure of devotion. The reconstruction of the Korean War Memorial is recognizing the importance of those who gave the ultimate sacrifice and to ensure we never forget the military history of Korea, or MHK. This memorial not only ensures the preservation of history from the Korean War, but also strengthens the alliance between the United States and the Republic of Korea. To the fallen and the veterans of the Korean War, no matter what we do or say, it will never be enough to say how grateful we are for their ultimate sacrifice. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my greatest honor to introduce the official party for the Wall of Remembrance dedication ceremony. Please welcome Mr. Doug Emhoff, Second Gentleman of the United States.
Larry, hold.
Apologies, I was told to hold. So I will stand fast until I'm given the order to commence. Again, ladies and gentlemen, it is my greatest honor to introduce the official party for the Wall of Remembrance dedication ceremony. Please welcome Mr. Doug Emhoff, Second Gentleman of the United States, Mr. Jake Sullivan, I'd like to introduce Mr. Jake Sullivan, National Security Advisor to the United States. Minister Jong-Sup Lee, National Minister of National Defense. Minister Min-Shik Park, Minister of Patriots and Veterans Affairs. General John Tilley, retired, Chairman of the Korean War Veterans Memorial Foundation. At this time, please rise, in body or spirit, for the presentation of colors by the Armed Forces Color Guard from the Military District of Washington. Please remain standing for the national anthems of the Republic of Korea and the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the invocation and welcome Chaplain Major General Thomas Solheim.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, my fellow Americans, our Korean friends, allies, and partners, Gold Star families of our Korean War heroes, and our Korean veterans, welcome to this ceremony today as we honor and remember the fallen in the Wall of Remembrance ceremony today. In a work entitled For the Fallen, which aptly captures the spirit of this sacred moment, poet Lawrence Binion writes, "They went with songs to battle. They were young, straight of limb, true of eye, steady and aglow. They were staunch to the end, against odds uncounted. They fell with their faces to the foe. They shall grow, not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning calm, we remember them." I ask that you join me as we honor this sacred moment in prayer. Living God, as we dedicate this Wall of Remembrance today, we ask that you bless the commemoration of the service and sacrifice of the 36,574 American service members and more than 7,200 members of the Korean Augmentation to our Army, who laid down their lives for one another, for the people of South Korea, and for our shared values of freedom and liberty. May this granite stone, though silent, now speak forever. May it bear the testimony not just of the cost of war, but to the cost of freedom. May this Wall of Remembrance preserve the heroic legacy of our Korean War veterans, and may it provide comfort to our Gold Star families. May this monument stand before you to inspire the young, console the grieving, and challenge the passerby. This chorus of names before us calls us to remember. Grant us grace to never forget and to lead our lives worthy of the price paid on our behalf by these men and women. In your most holy and mighty name I pray. Amen.
Thank you very much, Chaplain. Ladies and gentlemen, please have your seat. I would now like to please welcome the chairman of the Korean War Veterans Memorial Foundation, General John H. Tilley.
Minister Park, Minister Lee, Ambassador Cho, ambassadors, Second Gentleman, Mr. Doug Emhoff, National Security Advisor, Mr. Jake Sullivan, members of Congress, members of the National Assembly, General and Flag Officers, distinguished guests, and most importantly, this ceremony is for the veterans and the families of the fallen heroes. Today is a momentous occasion where a long-term dream of the veterans comes to reality, the addition of the Wall of Remembrance to the Korean War Memorial. I can tell you I'm honored to be chairman and having dealt with many of the veterans and families. Today you will see, and I hope you take time to go look at the memorial, a totally renovated memorial with the addition of a Wall of Remembrance. The Wall of Remembrance has inscribed on it 36,634 Americans and 7,174 Korean augmentees to the United States Army, integrated on the wall, not separated because they died in American units fighting with American soldiers. You will also see each service represented on the Wall of Remembrance. I can tell you, and I'm with great honor, that this was accomplished because of the generous support of the Korean people and the ROK government. plus donations from many Korean corporations and individuals. It would not have been done without the support, the major support, of the people of the Republic of Korea and the Korean government. Also, a dedicated team in partnership with our partners, the National Park Service, and I thank them for all their help in getting this done and getting it done quickly. We started construction in March of 2021, and today's the opening. That's quick time. We are hopeful that this memorial will remind the millions of people who visit here each year that freedom is not free. Our goal is threefold. One, to honor in a dignified way those who fought and died and planted the seeds for a free democratic Republic of Korea. Secondly, to educate all who visit the cost of war. 3 years, 36,000 Americans. Think about it in today's context, 1,000 a month. And show the strength of an ironclad ROK-U.S. alliance, which every day we see through our national security system, our Secretary of Defense, the National Security Advisor, and all of those who take part in that alliance. Today we honor the veterans of the Korean War and the families of the fallen heroes. That's what this is about. All the rest of us are just attractive dressing. That's what we're here for. With this dedication ceremony, I hope that is no longer the forgotten war, but the remembered victory that was caused by the veterans. So thank you all for being here today. God bless you all. God bless America. Thank you very much.
Thank you, General Tilley, for those wonderful remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Minister of Patriots and Veterans Affairs, Minister Min-Shik Park.
존경하는 한국전 참전 용사와 전사자 유가족 여러분, 그리고 내외 귀빈 여러분, 오늘 한국전 전사자 추모의벽 준공식을 갖게 되어 매우 뜻깊게 생각하며 대한민국 국민과 함께 진심으로 축하를 드립니다.
Korean War veterans, families of the fallen, and distinguished guests. I am touched that everyone came together for this meaningful dedication ceremony for the Wall of Remembrance. And the people of the Republic of Korea and I would like to congratulate you all.
이번에 준공된 추모의 벽은 미군과 함께 카투샤 소속 한국군 전사자를 함께 기림으로써 한미 혈맹의 강고함을 나타내는 조형물로 건립되었습니다.
The Wall of Remembrance has been established as a structure that highlights a solid Republic of Korea United States alliance by honoring both American service members and KATUSAs, soldiers who served or were killed in action.
이곳을 찾는 미국인과 전 세계인들에게 한국 전쟁을 알리는 역사적 상징물이자 평화의 공간으로 영원히 기억될 것입니다.
Americans and people around the world who visit here will remember this wall as a historical symbol, forever reminding them of the Korean War and serve as a place of peace.
그동안 추모의벽 준공을 위해 헌신적인 노력을 하신 한국전 참전용사 추모재단 존 틸러리 이사장님과 재단 관계자 여러분께도 깊은 감사의 말씀을 드립니다.
I extend my heartfelt gratitude to Board Chairman of the Korean War Veterans Memorial Foundation, General John H. Tilley, and his team for working diligently to complete the Wall of Remembrance.
그리고 이제는 우리의 곁을 떠나셨지만 한국 전쟁이 잊혀진 전쟁이 되지 않도록 평생을 노력하셨고 추모의 벽 건립에도 크게 기여하신 고 윌리엄 웨버 대령님의 영전에 깊은 애도의 뜻을 표합니다.
I also want to express my deepest respects to the late Colonel William Weber, who dedicated his whole life to ensure the Korean War was never forgotten, and for being an advocate for the Wall of Remembrance project.
참전 용사와 유가족 여러분, 72년 전 수많은 미국의 젊은이들이 공산화의 위기에 처한 대한민국을 지키기 위해 전쟁의 포화 속으로 뛰어들었습니다. 많은 젊은 영웅들이 이 땅의 자유를 수호하기 위해 사랑하는 가족의 곁을 떠나야만 했습니다.
Veterans and families, 72 years ago, many young Americans bravely ran into the fires of war to save the Republic of Korea from the communist threat and aggression. So many young heroes had to be separated from their loving families to defend the freedom of the peninsula.
하지만 오늘 추모의 벽에 미군 전사자 36,634명과 한국군 카투샤 7,174명의 이름을 한 분 한 분 새김으로써 우리는 그들을 영원히 기억할 수 있게 되었습니다.
However, today we remember forever the 36,364 American service members and the 7,174 KATUSA who made the ultimate sacrifice by engraving each and every name on the Wall of Remembrance.
한국전 참전 용사 여러분, 여러분은 대한민국을 지켜낸 자유의 수호자이자 진정한 영웅입니다.
You are the guardians of freedom and true heroes who protected the Republic of Korea.
여러분들의 희생과 헌신을 영원히 기억할 것이며 여러분의 희생 위에 우뚝 세워진 한미동맹을 더욱 굳건히 지켜나갈 것입니다.
The government of the Republic of Korea and its people will forever remember your selfless sacrifice, noble contribution, and your actions to defend the Republic of Korea-United States alliance.
이 자리를 빌려 한국전 참전 용사와 유가족분들께 깊은 감사와 위로의 말씀을 드립니다.
I want to take this opportunity to express my deepest gratitude to Korean War veterans and most sincere condolences to families of the fallen.
그리고 추모의 벽 건립에 많은 도움을 주신 대한민국 제한군인회, 한미동맹재단, 가투샤 연합회, 민주평화통일자문위원회 등 각급 단체와 한인회를 비롯한 교민 여러분께도 깊이 감사드립니다.
I would like to extend my heartfelt appreciation to several agencies including the Korean Veterans Association, the Korea-U.S. Alliance Foundation, the KATUSA Veterans Association, the National Unification Advisory Council, and the Korean American community that fully supported the Wall of Remembrance project.
다시 한번 한국 전쟁에서 전사하신 43,808명 모두의 영원한 안식을 기원합니다. 감사합니다. 2022년 7월 27일 대한민국 대통령 윤석열 대독.
May all 43,808 heroes who were killed in the Korean War rest in eternal peace. 27 July 2022, Yoon Suk-yeol, President, Republic of Korea. Thank you.
같이 갑시다. We go together.
Thank you very much, Minister Park. Ladies and gentlemen, I am honored and please welcome Mr. Doug Emhoff, Second Gentleman of the United States.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very honored to be here on behalf of President Biden, Vice President Harris, our entire administration, to honor our veterans and also to honor the strength of the United States and Republic of Korea alliance. I'm also joined here by our great National Security Advisor, my friend Jake Sullivan. General Tilley, thank you so much for the work that you've done. I know this was not easy, but you did it, and you did it for all of us. So thank you, General, for all your work. We have many esteemed leaders here from our military. We have members of Congress, from the Senate and from the House. We've got administration folks. So thank you all for coming here as well. This means a lot to this relationship. For this historic dedication ceremony for this Wall of Remembrance. Like the other speakers, I want to first start by thanking the heroes that we have among us. Our veterans, I see a lot of you out here. Thank you, veterans from the United States and Korea. Your families who have always supported you, our Gold Star families, and the active members of the military. Thank you all for your service, and thank you all for being here today. We really appreciate it. Defense Minister Lee and Veterans Minister Park traveled all the way from Korea, nearly 7,000 miles, along with others from their delegation to be here, the ambassadors here. Thank you all so much for making the trip. It's really an honor to welcome you here, so thank you for that. Today is such an important day. We commemorate the sacrifice of those Americans and Koreans who bravely fought together, side by side, to defend our freedom, laying the foundation for a thriving, democratic Republic of Korea and a strong, unbreakable United States Republic of Korea alliance. As the General said, today is the day that we mark the culmination of efforts over many, many years by American and Korean veterans, their families, the Korean War Veterans Memorial Foundation, to make this Wall of Remembrance a reality. And today is that reality. It's a beautiful monument. It's a poignant reminder of the individual sacrifices of the more than 36,000 U.S. service members and the more than 7,000 Korean troops who served together and died together in Korea. Their names are now forever engraved here on our incredible Washington Mall. This place, this mall, is so special to so many of you, including myself. I've spent many hours, like many of you, walking the paths of this mall, staggered by the beauty of it, but also the meaning of these monuments and what it means to all of us and our world. And now, another generation of families, students, guests from all around the world are going to visit this Wall of Remembrance to honor the joint sacrifices of our American and Korean brethren. And over the 3 years of combat, nearly 1.8 million Americans answered the call to serve during the Korean War. As you all know, veterans, you faced enormous challenges, often outnumbered by the enemy. You faced extreme conditions there, fighting across mountains, rocky terrain of the Korean Peninsula. You showed courage, resilience. And in addition to those who were killed and are commemorated on this wall, thousands were held in brutal captivity, and thousands remain unaccounted for even today. We must never forget that many more service members return home with the wounds of war, both visible and invisible. Our veterans, they continue to face these challenges today. That's why the Biden-Harris administration is committed to fully accounting for all prisoners of war and those missing in action. We're also committed to fulfilling our sacred obligation to care for our veterans, their families, their caregivers, and survivors, and making sure they receive all the benefits and services that they have rightfully earned. We're going to do that. I've been privileged to witness this strong alliance between our countries firsthand. First, last year, I was there when President Biden awarded the first Medal of Honor of his presidency to Colonel Ralph Puckett, Jr., a veteran of the Korean War. And standing beside President Biden that day was then President Moon of the Republic of Korea, marking the first time in history a foreign leader has participated in a Medal of Honor ceremony. It was a testament to the unique bonds that our countries have. And earlier this year, I was very honored to represent the United States and travel to Seoul to lead the presidential delegation to the inauguration of President Yoon, where I was warmly welcomed not only by the new administration, by the people of the Republic of Korea. I will never forget that. While visiting, I spent time with our troops at Osan Air Base, and I also had the opportunity to pay my respects at the beautiful and meaningful War Memorial of Korea. Please visit that when you're there. Shortly after my trip, President Biden arrived in Seoul. He and President Yoon affirmed that the U.S.-ROK alliance is stronger than ever, and that remains a linchpin of peace and stability in the region. They also met with American and Korean soldiers, still serving side by side to ensure the security of the Republic of Korea. As a grateful nation, we commit to honor our nation's Korean War veterans and that all they made possible. We will continue to stand side by side with the Republic of Korea, and this Wall of Remembrance is a concrete and everlasting reminder of that promise. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give a moment as the official party makes their way to the Wall of Remembrance.
opening is today for all intents and purposes. I don't know if you've been here before, but everything, including the trees, were all replaced. Every paver, there were 178 helical piles rolled up and down. So let's go over here to the wall and talk about it. This is panel 1. Panel 1 through 84, Army. And embedded in this, and you'll see the names of KATUSA. We decided that they were going to be totally integrated with American names. The way we did this, and we decided to show the cost of war, it was very important that we started with privates, not colonels, not generals, not sergeants, privates. The first 44 panels of the Army 84 panels are privates and private first class. So if you put it in today's context, and you deal with it every day in the national security business, we lost 1,000 a month in 3 years. 36,634 names were on this wall of Americans, and 7,174 KATUSA that fought with American units. When American units went there initially, they were undermanned. The Korean government gave them Korean soldiers to fully man the units, and they fought with Americans and died with Americans. That was one of the issues that we had to get permission for, because the fact of the matter is this is the first memorial on the mall that has foreign names on it. Right. So you can see there are 100 panels, sir. We can walk along how much time do you want to spend. The first 84, you can see we keep going to panel number 44, which are privates and private first classes. See, here we're all Korean names integrated. You know, you see the panel, you see many of the Korean names, Kim, Lee, Mark, Hey, Joe, panels look like they're all Koreans, but you got to dig in. Like here's Jeffrey Robert up there and Jose Jimente. So it's totally integrated, and that's what we wanted to show. The other thing is, you look back over here at the 19 statues, they were retainted because they had been bleached by the sun. They're stainless steel. They weigh about 800 pounds. There are 19 statues representing each of the services, and they're 19, and if you look in the mural wall, they reflect, so they're 38 representing the 38th parallel. So we can continue to walk, if you will. I can tell you that I don't see Mr. Reinbow here, but the Park Service has been a total partner in this whole operation. These panels came from Cold Springs, Minnesota. Minnesota. And they were engraved and then trucked here in quantities of 1 to 4. So we put them where the numbers would be. And according to the public law, because many people ask where did we get the names, okay? The Rock government provided us the names of the KATUSA. The public law, which was signed by President Obama in 2016, said you have to get the official list from the Department of Defense. So the Department of Defense took a period of time, went through all the records, and gave us the names of those who were killed. And the other aspect of it is, during the Korean War, if you were missing for 1 year, you were declared dead. So they're on here also. So let's shoot over in this direction. You see the pool of remembrance in all the tiles. The freedom is not free, which is one of the keystones of the Rock U.S. Alliance, showing the sacrifice. Again, to put it in context, the Rock government gave $21 million to do this. And, you know, needless to say, there's no U.S. appropriated dollars in this. So you can see we're still talking U.S. Army here, right? 100 panels, about 400 to 450 names per panel. Come on, dude. I need you to come and get sit so I can sit. Stop. Stop. So I can get sit. You're moving. I need to be on him, so I need you to stay close. We're now getting into corporals. So you can see these are young men, 18 to 24. 18 to 24. You know, the first person killed in Korea was 19 years old, machine gunner. So let's shoot over here. You've seen the Army. Let's go over and see the other services, and then we'll go back to the and put the road. We have 6 board members, all pro bono. Only two people are paid. And you'll see in the Marine Corps, all U.S. names from here on out, because the KATUSA were part of the Army.
프라이빗이 사명입니다.
Yeah.
프라이빗. Yesterday I heard some soldier cheated his age. Actually, he was 20 years old. He cheated.
I went to.
Actually, he was 16 years old.
Right. No.
Why?
No. There were many in all wars. In all wars, we have had men and women who are below the age of enlistment. They either falsify documents or have their parents say it's okay to join. Patriots. Patriots. Patriots.
그러니까 나이를 올려가지고.
맞아, 그러니까. Here you see the U.S. Navy, sir, and then the U.S. Air Force. And back here, we have the stone. Who was our Harmon and Cox and Whiting Turner? Harmon and Cox they were the architects, and of course we put that in special, which shows the generous support of the people of the Republic of Korea. Yeah, great. Which is important to us.
Invocation of the Korean War Veterans Memorial.
So if we can walk over to the first panel, we'll lay the roses down and
No. I got it.
It's also very interesting that many Koreans who come from Korea to America, this is the first place they visit. Yeah. So, ready? Please place them where you wish.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you take a look at the screen, we are currently doing a moment of silence for those who served and gave their ultimate sacrifice. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to introduce Miss America, Miss Emma Broyles, to sing God Bless America. Please give a big round of applause. Thank you, Ms. Boyles. And now look, it's time to thank Miss America, thank the Army Band and Chorus, and thank the Foundation. Please give a big round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, as we close, freedom is not free, and are the sheer words that are engraved in this very memorial that we have gathered to commemorate today. But what exactly does this phrase mean? This phrase is a reminder to protect the sole freedom that our veterans fought for, to educate the future generations about our history and emphasize the hardships and lessons learned alongside it, to support and respect the current active members of our armed forces, and to ensure all Americans feel the benefits of freedom. As citizens of this beautiful republic, we are obligated to express our everlasting gratitude to our veterans, not just today, but every day and night coming forth. I would like to thank each and every one of you for attending today's special event. It was my great honor to be your Master of Ceremonies. Would like to express that Koreans, Americans, and I love you, many, and all Korean veterans, the fallen, the families of the fallen, for your devotion and sacrifice. May God bless the Republic of Korea and the United States of America. This concludes our ceremony. Thank you.
Oh, beautiful, for heroes proved in liberating strife. Who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. America, America, make God thy gold refined, till all success be nobleness, and ever again divine. And you know, when I was in school, we used to sing it something like this. Listen here. Oh, beautiful, far spacious skies, far amber waves of grain, far purple mountain majesties, over the fruited plain. But now wait a minute, I'm talking about America, sweet America. You know, God done shed his grace on thee. He crowned thy good. Yes, he did. Heavy brotherhood from sea to shining sea. You know, I wish I had somebody to help me sing this. America, I love you, America. You see, my God, he done shed his grace on thee. You ought to love him for it, 'cause he crowned thy good. He told me he would. Every brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, Lord, I thank you, Lord. If tomorrow all the things were gone I'd worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA. Well, there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's program, and we'd like to thank all Korean War veterans, not just those here with us today, but those viewing at home, the Korean War Veterans Memorial Foundation, and, of course, all of you for joining us today for this incredible ceremony. Susan?
And as a Korean American whose family was saved during the Korean War by these brave Americans, I can never thank America enough, and these heroes who gave their precious lives to save us. And every beat of my heart reminds me that my life and my freedoms were made possible by their sacrifice. And these great Americans will no longer be forgotten. And with today's Wall of Remembrance, we will ensure that their sacrifice will always be honored and remembered. And I am forever grateful, as are millions of Koreans around the world are forever grateful for what America gave to us. And these Americans changed the destiny of our lives and saved us from the grips of North Korea's communist regime. And for that, we are forever grateful. So I'd like to extend my condolences to all the families who lost their loved ones during the war. And I pray that God will always comfort you and bless you and your families. And may God always bless this great country, the greatest country of the world, the United States of America.